Coach. Ready. Cut. Right. Pace. Ready. Cut. Carry. Coach.
Everybody please stand. And Veterans Day, I'll just say that it's my honor to be doing this and to honor all veterans. I was brought up by Vietnam veterans, who to me were the greatest veterans that were around. Today we're honoring veterans from all services, and I'm really glad that we're in school today. I know maybe a lot of you aren't, and I used to see the same thing, but when they started doing this, I liked it because we were able to come together and honor these veterans one day at least. There's a lot of your classmates, former classmates, that are not much older than you that have served, from 2001 up until right now. We've had a lot of kids come not just out of ROTC, but out of this high school that have served and that have also done a lot of great things. They're mostly out, but we need to take care of them. And fortunately for us, for Loudon High School, we haven't lost one. We haven't lost one in all this time. We've had one wounded, and that was several years ago by IED, but otherwise I haven't. The kids are still enlisted, and by the way, we're still at war. At this time, I want you to honor our veterans as we bring our veterans down to seat and get ready for our presentation. Go ahead and bring the veterans down, please. say it's a great honor today. Like I said, I was brought up by Vietnam vets, but we have the honor of having one of the greatest generations in American history here today, has served in various places. I read through his biography, and it's so full of places that he's been in Northern Africa, Italy, Normandy. It's unbelievable. We're so honored to have him here today and have him come up here and talk with us, Mr. Clinton Riddle. Thank you. Congratulations. What I want to do today, first of all, before we have a lot of questions for Mr. Riddle and his service, but we want him to express to us what he's done, what his background is, and what he is. And then we have our resident historian, Mr. Brakebill, here, that's going to kind of host this, and we're going to get a lot of great information for this. So if y'all be quiet while we're doing this, we'll do good. And if you'd, Mr. Riddle, if you'd like to speak a little bit, we'll let you speak.
Mr. Riddle, first of all, I want to say, on behalf of everybody, thank you so much for coming, and thank you for your service, as well as all of you all that came to join us. We're very grateful for the sacrifice and the debt that you have. We have such an enormous debt to you all. Thank you. Mr. Riddle, if you would, some of the students came up with some questions that they would just like for you to elaborate on and to talk about. First of all is, I guess, how did you get into the military? At what age did you become involved? And if you could elaborate a little bit on the beginning.
I drafted McMinn County.
So you were drafted into World War II.
Right.
Okay. What branch did you serve in?
Well, after I finished basic training, I went to Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and they first put me in MPs, and after a period of time they discovered I was 2 inches too short. You had to be 5'8", and I was only 5'6". So I ended up in the glider unit, 325th Glider Infantry, 2nd Airborne, where I served throughout the war.
Okay, the glider infantry, could you explain that a little bit to us?
Yes, a glider is pulled by a plane, and the ones we used to going into Normandy was a C-47 pulling the English, British horsey glider. It hold 31, 33 men and made a crash landing D+1 in Normandy.
Okay, could you describe a little bit of your training prior to combat?
Well, going back quite a ways, I applied for a clerk school. I thought it'd give me an office job. I wouldn't have to go to combat. And while I was there, I decided, since I was in service, that I'd apply for OCS, Officers Training School. But he shipped me out before I had a chance to go to school. It made me mad at the Army because I didn't get to go to officers' training. And when I arrived at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, the old sergeant came out cursing, said, "What in the world send these cooks and clerks up here? What we need is machine gun and mortarmen." So I knew then my office job was gone, and I was already mad. I made a resolution that I didn't want any responsibility, I didn't want any promotion. If I had anything to do with it, when the war was over, I was coming home.
Okay. Where was it that you served during World War II?
Well, I've been to 16 countries, and I've been in every battle in Europe. I was in 6 battle zones, 4 of them invasion, beginning with Africa, Sicily, Italy, Ireland, England, Normandy, Holland, Battle of the Bulge.
Okay. Could you kind of explain a little bit of your role there in D-Day in Normandy?
Well, I was more or less a flunky, or do-it-all. I had different jobs to do. I was mostly a radio operator. We landed so hard that it broke the antenna off with a Field 300 radio, and I was outside trying to attach a walkie-talkie antenna to the field radio. It's the only means of communication we had until we got another radio. And the photographer came along and took my picture. I have it in the book at the house. And in the meantime, 2 German planes came over strafing, so I got in a hurry and got it done.
Okay, well, from there, then on to the Battle of the Bulge. Could you explain a little bit of your involvement there as well?
Like froze to death. Coldest winter in 20 years. The only protection I had is to dig a box hole in the snow-covered frozen ground. We've fought from 18th of December to 17th of February 1945, including taking quite a bit of territory, especially Seaford Line. We took that, and it's just mostly a fight, combat hand-to-hand, and we was attacked it, and I'd run a little while and hit the snow, but they filled my pack back full of holes. It was getting that close to me.
Okay, were you able to have any type of communication back home during your service in World War II?
Write a letter once in a while and say, well, I can farm it fine. I can arm you real well. Everything going well.
Okay, I guess, of course, in war, I don't know if you can have a greatest memory, but is there a memory that sticks out to you during your service in World War II, during your time of service?
Is what?
Is there a memory that really sticks out to you more than others, something that you really remember more than anything else?
Yes, there's 2 or 3 different ones. One was on a flight from England to Normandy. The C-47 lost power, and the glider was overrunning the C-47. They kept cranking the plane until it fired up, and eventually the other fired up. But when it gained power, the glider had overrun the plane, and the rope had got under our landing gear, and when it took power and straightened the line, it flipped us almost into the channel.
Okay, as your service concluded, what medals were you bestowed from your service?
I've got about 20 altogether. I've got a few of them on. Bronze Star, 6 battle in the ETO ribbon, and good conduct. I was a good boy part of the time. And in the landing in Holland, I was actually co-pilot up front, and the glider landed on its nose, threw me against the crash bar and injured my side, and later I went to the hospital and they treated me and wrote me up for Purple Heart, which wasn't put on my discharge. And I've been trying to get that ever since, but the review board fails to make a change. That's their job, is to correct the records, but they're falling short of doing their job. They said it could be an accident. Well, I wrote them back and I said if it hadn't been for the enemy, I would have been there to start with.
Finally getting the news that that the Germans had surrendered, Victory in Europe Day, what was that like?
Don't be go home.
Was there any
A group that met the Russians. The Russians were coming in, and the Germans was trying to infiltrate in our line to get away from the Russians. And it's the first time in history that the entire German Army 21 surrendered to the 82nd Airborne Division. First time in the history the Army surrendered to a division. We took 150,000 prisoners. And of course I had to strip them, and I piled up the equipment in piles along the way. Of course, old Clinton already down and got some souvenirs.
what kind of souvenirs were you able to?
Brought 8 pistols home, beautiful sword. I don't know what all. I got a helmet. First one thing and another. Come down to see my war room sometime.
Okay. As the Pacific Theater was still going on, was there any chance of you going to the Pacific?
Yeah, I was scared to death that I was going to have to go to Ed, but I had enough of points. Each one of these counts so many points, and I had enough to be discharged, so I didn't have to go. I know nothing about the Pacific except the treatment they did to our soldiers.
Okay. Returning back from home, can you talk just a moment about kind of assimilating back to the civilian life from World War II?
Well, I was discharged in Attleboro, Indiana. Had to buy my Greyhound bus ticket to Sweetwater. And when I arrived at Sweetwater, there wasn't any big band or big group of people to meet me. The only one girl that worked across the street from where I got off the bus had written me while I was overseas, so she came over and welcomed me home. That was my welcome. But later on, we got a new mayor of the town, and got the men together and had a meeting and invited me to come, and they presented me with a huge key to the city. Beautiful key. But I hadn't found anything to fit yet. That was fine. They gave me an opportunity to make a little speech. I said, this is my welcome home now.
Okay, you had a great opportunity to return back to Normandy a few years ago, is that correct?
Yes, sir. I returned for the 60th anniversary and also the 70th.
Could you kind of tell us what that was like, being able to go back to Normandy?
Yeah, I got to go to many of the places where I had fought. They have a museum in St. Marguerite where one trooper's parachute hung on the church steeple, and they thought he was dead. He was facing the roof, but when I was there, I had a dummy hanging up there looking out over the church area.
Okay, and then the last question for you, Mr. Riddle, is is there any kind of words of wisdom that you could tell us or provide us with from all that you've been able to experience and from your service?
What experience in service?
Yes, or any type of words of wisdom that you could provide us with.
Well, I don't know if I'm allowed to or not, but I was saved when I was 14. I felt the call of the ministry 15, and because Alex died when I was 10-year-old, and I rejected the call to the ministry, and I had to prove I was as big as anybody. And lo and behold, I ended up in the roughest, toughest outfit Sam had, and I run from the calling of the ministry until after the Battle of Holland. I had the testament I carried with me, and I was reading my testament and praying, and I promised the Lord He'd allow me to come back to home, that I'd do anything He wanted me to do. But I run 23 years from the call of the ministry, and finally I surrendered to it, and I pastored 4 churches continuous for 30 years, going from one to the other. I also worked on the job, pastored a church, and later on I set up my own shop. I was working 16, 18 hours a day, and I ended up with a heart attack.
If anybody's interested in getting more information on you, is there anything out there that people could find more information on you and on your service?
Oh, I have a 6.5-hour interview with the history department at the University of Tennessee, so I can talk for 7 hours if they want to listen.
Okay, all right. Well, Mr. Riddle, again, we're so thankful for you coming today, and we're very thankful for your service and for all that you've done. One other thing.
We want to just show our appreciation and,
While in Holland,
sorry.
on the Battle of Mook, they killed every officer in our company except one, and they buried him in Fence Road, pasture land, and that was in 1944. I was there when he was killed, and he wasn't found until '93, and I was on the tour and attended his funeral 50 years later, met his family and so forth, and they killed every officer in the company except one, and they put me to help carrying the wounded out and the dead.
Thank you, Mr. Riddle. We're so thankful for you and your service.
All I'm telling you is experiences, not stories. We have some self-made heroes.
That's true. I'd like to present Mr. Riddle for his service and for him coming and taking the time to speak to us. This is a picture, which is this Army soldier. You have to really look at it close, but there's all Army terminology and words like snafu, stuff like, you remember that word, right? Back in the, yes, sir. And we'll leave it right there and all that stuff. So this is kind of our memento for you, Mr. Riddle. Thank you very much, sir. Songs and what we ask is kind of our tradition at the end of the program. The choir is going to sing each service song, and when your service song is sung, please stand up with that appropriate service. Thank you.
The United States Army. In World War I, 4,057,101 soldiers served valiantly on the field of battle. To all the men and women of the United States Army, our salute.
United States Navy, World War II, 4,183,466 men and women answered the call to protect our country. To every member of the Navy on every battlefront, we salute you.
of the Coast Guard veterans, our gratitude and salute.
United States Marines. In the Vietnam War, 794,000 Marines served their country with valor and honor. To every member of the Marine Corps who served in every conflict, we salute you.
During the Persian Gulf War, 50,751 Air Force pilots put their lives on the line for the defense of freedom. To all the men and women of the Air Force who have continuously served their country, our salute.
First of all, before we dismiss, we're about done, I'd just like to say thank y'all for all your service. Regardless of service, we're all brothers today. I'd be remiss to say though, yesterday, Semper Fi, happy birthday yesterday, 241 years Marines. It's good to see y'all. And thank you, hoorah. And so it's good to see y'all. Good to see all of you, all brothers in arms. I appreciate you. Let's give them a round of applause, please.